Alright, hello all you people out there, this is Michael of 2.5 Studios, and welcome back to a Game Maker tutorial. Alright, so firstly, sorry that this didn't get up last week. There are some videos that just really don't want to be recorded, and let's talk about sound. This is something that a couple of people have been interested in me making videos about. So, firstly, I need to get into the right folder, hang on. Okay, I'm very well organized, but there's a couple different types of sound that Game Maker supports. There's MP3s, which are, I believe, the most popular format of sound, OGG, and WAVE. So most people have never heard of OGG, and most people have at least heard of WAVE. And they differ in the way that they store the information, the way they compress the information in the sound file. MP3s have a lot of compression, so it's going to have the smallest file size. OGG is a little bit less than MP3, it's a little bit bigger in file size, it's like 40% bigger. And WAVE has little to no compression, and that file size is huge. So for background noises, I know MP3 is the most popular and has the best sound quality and everything, technically not true. But Game Maker actually prefers that you work with OGG for background noise. It will convert all the sounds into that anyway when it compiles your game, when you go up here and click Create Application. So it's best to work with that. Now, if I will get back into the sound folder, awesome. I'm going to click and drag this into here. I don't know why it's doing that. Yes, that's what a waveform looks like. No, I don't want to save that. Okay, let's do this the hard way. We're going to go create sound, and we're going to go and load this. We're going to do that. And if you work with sound in Game Maker 8 and previous versions, this is going to look a little bit different than the sound editor did there. You have things like mono, stereo, or 3D sound, the bit depth, the bit rate, the sampler rate, quality. We're just going to leave all that as it is. Compressed versus uncompressed. Uncompressed means that the game will uncompress it when it starts up, and the game doesn't have to do any extra processing in order to play it, but it's going to take up a lot more space in the RAM. Compressed means that it's not going to do that, so it takes up less RAM, but it's going to take more CPU power in order to play it while the game is running. And depending on what your game looks like, you may prefer one of those two options. You also have the option to just leave it on the hard disk instead of loading it into the RAM, and just stream it off the hard drive, and that will again take more CPU power. I'm not going to mess with any of these. I'm pretty happy with the sampler rate and the bit rate and everything. I guess if you wanted to, you could convert that into stereo so that you can do fun things with the effects. I'll make a video on the advanced audio functions later for audio effects like that and stuff, but not now. So we're going to click out of that. Actually, no, we're going to call this, what was this? It was just Raiku's battle theme from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so I'll just call it, you really should prefix this something with something like that, but I don't like doing that because I'm a lazy butt and I have bad habits when it comes to code. So we're going to save the game there. Here, this is one thing that could cause problems for people who are using sounds. So if you go into global game settings here, in the general tab, the first one that opens up probably, you're going to see this little option that says use new audio engine. And the audio engine actually got completely rebuilt between Game Maker 8.1 and Studio. And if you don't have the new audio engine checked here, you're going to be on the old one, which is a lot more limited. I think it's not as reliable. I've had it crash on me a few times just for playing simple sounds back in 8.1. And you can just do more things with the new engine. So I suppose you're going to want the background music to start playing when you create the player object. So we are going to say, let's see, audio play sound, and you may have seen audio play music flash up on the screen there. And previous versions of Studio actually differentiated between music and sounds. These functions now, there's a couple of functions that deal with music will no longer work. They won't do anything if you try to use them. I guess that's for better. I don't really want to be having to differentiate between sound and music. So I'm going to be saying sound ID, we're just going to be saying Raiko. I spelled that right. Priority, we're going to set that to 1 right now. I'll talk about that at the end of this video. And loops. And do you want this to loop or not? So I think this is background music. We're going to make that true. Alright. gonna plug in some headphones just so that there's no possible feedback from the sound playing or anything, and we're gonna run the game. Come on. And you can hear now the music started playing, and not much else because that's all I told us to do. Now, if you wanted to, you could go and play this again as many times as you want. I'm going to go and how about, just for the sake of doing that, I'm gonna start playing in, how about the I key event, because why not? This is gonna sound really funny really fast. Yeah, it works, but it sounds dumb, so don't do that. Alright. Now for some of the other functions that you can do with audio. So, audio exists. I'm just going to read down the list in Studio and talk about each one of them individually. Audio exists will tell you if there's a sound that exists with a given ID. Remember, all of these resources are ID based. I think Raku is 0, I'm not sure. So we're going to say audio exists 0. We're going to show message that just so that we can see that it works. And then I don't know if I really wanted to. Okay, so it showed us 1, so indeed it does. If I really wanted to, I could say I don't know, wall, which is a room. It's got an ID of like 3 or object rather. It's got an ID of like 3. But I'm not gonna do that. Audio get name is something that will get the name of the resource. So you could say show message audio get name. If you put in Rodco when you run the game, it would show you this. But that's not all that impressive because we already know the name of that resource. So what if we were to say something like show message audio get name an index or something? Maybe you were doing a loop through all of your audio resources, and you wanted to do something like if audio exists with a loop counter. You'd say show message audio get name of the index of the loop. I only have one piece of audio here in the game currently, so that doesn't make too much sense. Going down the list again, audio play sound at is somewhat more complicated, and I'll talk about that later in the video. Audio pause sound, that will probably pretty obviously pause the sound, but just because why not, we're gonna say how about when I press. I'm looking for keys that haven't been used for anything else. The Q key, because I'm creative and I'm just looking at the top row of the keyboard. Q, we're going to say audio pause sound. And we can say that if I spell it right. And likewise, how about when I hit W, we're going to resume the sound. And alright, let's run the game. So we have it playing. I hit Q and it stopped. I hit W and it starts up again. Awesome. You also have stop sound, not just pause, but stop. And when I use that and run it, the sound will stop playing. It won't pause. It won't be there anymore. You may notice, like on CD players, do those still exist? But if you hit the stop button and then play the sound again, you're gonna like not start up where you left off. It's gonna start off from the beginning or something like that. So the difference between stop and pause. Also, so how about when I hit the E key? That's the next one over on the keyboard because I'm creative, I know. We're gonna say show the message of audio is playing and Raku, and obviously that's gonna tell us true or 1 because the sound is playing. But you can check to see if a certain sound is playing like that. I don't think that sort of function is terribly useful, but it is something that you can use if you want to. Additionally, when it comes to pause sound, resume sound, stop, you can check all. You have functions to check all, which will start, stop, and pause all of the sounds that are currently playing in the game. I don't know when that would be too useful. If you want to stop all the sounds, maybe if you're like, I don't know, pick up a key item that'll stop all currently playing music and I don't know, start to play something else. You can use your imagination for that. Likewise, going along with is playing, you have is paused, but I don't think I have to run the game until I hit what that does. So more interestingly, you have a set of semi-advanced audio functions down here, and I'm going to go through all of those as well. So how about saying instead of audio is playing here, which isn't very interesting. We can say show message audio, get the sound length. And what this does, that returns the length of the sound in seconds. Or, I think it's seconds. Is it seconds? We're gonna hit E. Yeah, that's seconds. So this song is a little less than 2 minutes long. This doesn't sound too useful at first, but then you can go and time things in the game, like have certain things happen when a sound finishes playing, or perhaps when a sound is halfway finished playing or something like that. And previously, if you'd want to do things like that in Game Maker 8, you'd have to know the duration of the sound ahead of time, which really kind of isn't something you want to do. Hard coding values like that, when possibly you want to be able to have the program get a value like that on its own, in case you decide to change the audio resource or something like that, and you don't have to go and reset all the values by hand. Next, you have sound pitch, and this is also a little fun one, although not one that I can say I would be using every day, but sound pitch. And before I talk about that at all, I'm going to just run the game. And I'm going to hit the E key. Yeah, that sounds kind of funny. So pitch is going to raise the pitch of the sound playing by an octave. I just got a message from change.org. Okay, and the pitch here, it has a range. It goes between 0 and 256. 0 would be inaudible, and 256, I think that would most probably also be inaudible, at least to the human ear. If I were to do that, my dog might go haywire, so I'm not going to demonstrate. And you're probably not going to hear anything anyway. I don't know, maybe when I finish recording this video and examine the waveform or something. I don't know. But you can make this really high. This is probably going to sound really weird. I should probably also get rid of the show message, because that's just really getting in the way now. Yeah, that sounds really funny. I'm going to not do that. But you could set the pitch of the audio like that, and that's something you might use occasionally. You also have audio sound get pitch. And let's see, we're not going to take the factor there because that's kind of what you're returning from this function. And this is where show message might come in useful, but this is only going to tell me 1 because the factor of the pitch is going to be 1. I don't really know why I even bothered to run the game there, but why not? We're gonna see 1. Sound gain. If you're following me through the manual, you're going to notice I'm skipping a couple functions. That's because those are going to be more semi-advanced functions that I'm going to spend more time on individually later in the video. Sound gain. If you're an audio technician, you're probably going to know this term, but gain is basically oversimplifying it a little bit. But gain is basically the volume. So this is the equivalent of sound fade from the old Game Maker engine. So we're going to make this a value between 0 and 1, 0 being completely off and 1 being its full volume. So how about when I hit the E key, I'm going to fade it to 0, and time is going to be a millisecond, so let's make that 1 millisecond. And we're going to get rid of a show message there because it's really not necessary. And I think when I hit, what's the next key on the keyboard? R is the next key on the keyboard. So when I hit the R key, you're going to kind of do the opposite, and you're going to fade to full volume over the course of 1 second. So this is probably going to sound at least a little bit cooler, right? Let's see, wait for the game to load. Hit E, fades out. Hit R, fades back in. Awesome. You also have get gain, and once again, you would take these arguments out there, and you probably show it a message or something, or do some math with it or something, or put it in an if statement. I don't know. But that's going to get the volume factor. Oh, also I shouldn't have closed this window, but you have, instead of sound gain, you can do master gain. And that is going to go and not take this. It's also not going to take the milliseconds, but that's just going to set the volume of the entire, of all the sounds playing in the game. So if you had like a background music and 10 sound effects playing, it would set the volume of all of them to 0 or something in this case. And lastly, of the simple functions, or at least semi-simple functions, you have audio channel number. And this has to do with the priority that I've been talking about. So, simply put, Game Maker has, by default, 128 channels of audio that I can play over. So I can play up to 128 sounds at a time. Now, if you wanted to make this less, maybe you wanted to make it devote fewer resources to audio. Personally, I don't think 128 is necessary. I think you could probably get by half of that, maybe even like a quarter of that. 32 if you're really conservative, if you're going to count on not having everything play at a time. But what's going to happen if you go and have more sounds playing than the number of channels is that they're going to get prioritized, and the sounds with the higher priority, so the sounds of the higher priority are going to get more attention from the computer, and the sounds with the lower priority are going to get less. So the higher priority, you probably want to make something like background music, and the lower priority, you probably want to make something like, I don't know, sound effects or something that it wouldn't hurt if they don't play all the time or something like that, or if you're not hearing them constantly. But that is how audio number works, and I'm going to not have this happen. And I think my dog is making some noise downstairs. I hope she's not getting in trouble. But what was this before? This I forget what I used to have. This audio gain. Alright, this is horribly organized with all the thing with the keys and stuff, but I'm going to leave it like it is just for why not. So the next set of functions is something that's going to require a little bit more work, perhaps, than the other ones. So, audio sound, set track position, and get track position. Firstly, when I hit the T on the keyboard, I'm going to say show message, and you have this really long name, and I'm going to say Ryko. And what this should do, if we're using it properly, is tell us how many seconds along in the song that the audio is. So when I hit the T, when this loads, I guess, we get a 0. And the reason for that is that the new audio engine actually has sounds working sort of like object instances. So when you play a sound, this is a really long list of events here, but when you play a sound, you don't have to, you can say something like sound, that's not a reserved word, good, equals audio play sound, and this is going to be an instance of a sound that's playing. And you could deal with this more specifically than you would if you were to say, just when you hit the E key, set the gain. You could say, instead, set the gain of the particular instance of the sound. So if you were to do this now, only this sound would be affected, and all the other ones wouldn't. If you had, say, 5 instances of Ryko playing, only the one that was being stored in the sound variable would be affected and would fade to 0. That's probably a bad example, because if you had them all playing at the same time, never mind. That would be stupid, not necessarily a bad example. But in any case, just as you can treat the objects as general objects or specific instances, perhaps you could say with wall x equals 0. Don't do that either, because that's going to set all the walls to x equals 0, and the player is going to have nothing to walk on. If you ever use sounds like that, just think of them as object instances. I hope this is helping, because I know this can be kind of a weird idea to deal with. Anyhow, the other sounds could deal with the arguments as either the resources that you get under the sound tree, or the indexes, the instances, rather, as it were. So I'm going to be saying now sound and audio sound get track position, because that's going to deal with a very specific thing playing. It isn't just like a blanket approach to all the sounds playing in the game. It needs to take an index instead of just a resource. So now we're going to run the game, and this would compile a little faster. That would be nice. We're going to hit T, and now we're 2.14 seconds into it, 5.2, 6.3, and so on. So once again, if you want to deal with precise timing of sounds, perhaps you want to have an automatic loop or something like that. You also have likewise set track position, and this takes the sound and the time. So how about when we hit the key, we're gonna start playing 5 seconds in, and I'm gonna demonstrate this. We're also gonna want to get rid of this. Yeah, and instead of how about 5, let's make it 1, because I don't feel like waiting like that. I feel like having a jump behind instead of possibly ahead. Anyway, when I hit T, you can hear it restarting from the beginning. That sounds really dumb after you do it too many times. And this, along with get track position, sort of at least, can be used for making sounds automatically loop. Before in GameMaker 8.1, if you'd want to have a sound loop, you'd have to import the introductory part of the track and the looping part of the track separately. And then when the introduction part finished, you'd have the loop sound play on loop. And that was really kind of a big headache. But now, if you wanted to, when you could have when a sound finishes, you could have it, instead of looping back to the beginning, you could have it jump to a specific time in the track, and you could make that loop. I'm not going to demonstrate that now. I don't really feel like sitting around here for 2 and something minutes waiting for Rocco's sound to loop to demonstrate that. I might make a future video about it, completely devoted to it, but not now. Anyway, there are, I believe, 3 functions in this collection of sound functions that I didn't talk about. I'm going to do that in a separate video because they deal with, down here, what are known as listeners and emitters, and that really deserves a whole video of its own because it's more complicated, but you can do still even more with it. If you're really interested in the legacy sound that they use in GameMaker 8, you can still see those functions. You can use them if you have the option for it unchecked. So let's just have a look here. We're going to say, going to prefix it with sound. But you have fade, get kind of, that doesn't do anything anymore, get name, get preload, get global volume, is playing, loop, play, restore, stop, stop all volume. Those are really all just more simplistic versions of the audio play sound and those kind of functions. Anyhow, I hope you all enjoyed that. I hope this video finally gets up on time. Rate, comment, and subscribe. Watch some of the stuff I have uploaded, and I will see you all later.